This of course means growers may have to create a series of small plots in order to garner a year's supply of herb. If you grow merely for hobby, sport, or experimental purposes, then one site may suit you fine. Be planting small seedlings. The strongest argument for this method of planting is that you get the opportunity to select for planting the strongest of the seedlings you've started. The strongest argument against this method is the risk of transporting the seedlings to their intended sites. Transporting them requires you to find a method of concealing them, usually a box. The problem that then arises is that the size box needed to transport many plants may make this method too risky or totally impractical. The other concern with this method is that there is also the risk of shocking the seedlings when you put them outside in the site where they will be exposed to the harsh spring weather. Before planting seedlings or sexed females, they should be put outside and closely monitored at least 3 days before planting to become acclimated to the wind and change in temperature. This method works best when you can't set up a small shelter near your sites that is enclosed but not insulated. This shelter can be as small as the site and 18 inches tall or big enough to walk in, providing you have a safe location for such a structure. Starting seeds in this shelter gives the benefit of acclimating seedlings to a temperature much closer to that which they will face when they are planted in the site, and it will also protect them from any late spring snows and slash or frosts. C. Planting sexed females. The advantage of planting sexed females is obvious. Every plant will produce buds. The sex of plants can be determined by growing them until they're 4 inches high, and then decreasing the amount of light they receive to 8 hours. The males are then identified and removed in 1 to 2 weeks. This method requires being able to control the amount of light the plants receive each day, and also requires that plants be started indoors earlier than you would normally start late February, early March. This method allows growers to spread their plants across a wide area in smaller sites and also to hide plants amongst small trees and shrubs. By spreading 2 dozen female plants throughout a 10-acre area in individual sites, a harvest is almost guaranteed, providing that you remember where all the sites are. Growers are encouraged to create a map of their sites to ensure against memory loss. Just remember to guard that map closely. Putting anything about your operations in writing puts you at risk. 3. Weeding. 3 weeks after the plants or seeds are in the ground, return to remove weeds that are crowding out the kind herb. 3 weeks after the first weeding, a second weeding should take place. The third weeding is optional. By this time the plants should be large enough to compete with the weeds. However, if you are in a site that has strong weeds around it, you may have to cut the weeds back at additional times throughout the year. Remember, weeding does not mean destroying all vegetation within 3 feet of a plant. Weeds can help hide your crop and protect your crop from hungry animals. Nearby vegetation can also help keep water in the soil from evaporating in the hot sun. So don't go overboard and be very careful. It's very easy to accidentally injure small plants or their roots trying to get rid of weeds. 4. Removing males. If you are growing sexed females, these trips can be omitted. Male plants will begin to produce their flowers and pollen as early as mid-July for varieties acclimated to this climate. Varieties from more southern climates may not start until mid-September. This difference depends on the budding cycle of your variety. Some plants start to bud earlier than others, so the exact time to cut the males will vary with the strain. If you are using a variety of different seeds, it may be necessary to visit once a week from July 21st through September 15th. The timely identification of a male plant is crucial to the success of the harvest. If the weather is exceptional during the time the male starts producing its flowers and you missed seeing the first signs during your last visit, you could wind up with a lot of seeds and little of the fine herb. A female can either generate a large seedless bud, a large bud with a few seeds, or a large bud that is almost totally seeds. The first case is achieved by removing all the male plants before any of their flowers open. The second case occurs when a few male flowers have opened but you removed them before any more open. The third case occurs when you mistime the flowering of the male. This can be devastating if you have big female plants because you could lose 90% of the smokable herb to seed production. This last scenario may not always be bad though. If you are short on seeds for the next growing season, it may be prudent to let 1 or 2 males stand and fertilize a portion of the females. Good seeds are hard to come by, so if you have a strain you like, make sure to plant ahead and have at least a few hundred seeds for the future. The spotting of males is one of the most difficult things to explain to a person that's never grown, since it really takes careful attention to how the tops of male plants look at this stage of development. Even experienced growers will be unsure at times and will have to wait till the next visit to be sure. When a male enters the stage of flower development, the tips of the branches where a bud would develop will start to grow what looks like a little bud, but it will have no white hairs coming out of it. 5. The fungus, along with the law, thieves, animals, and insects. The fungus is another obstacle in the path of a successful growing season. When the buds are roughly half developed, they become susceptible to a fungus or bud rot. It appears that growing conditions for the fungus are best when temperatures are between 60 and 80 degrees and the humidity is high. The fungus is very destructive and spreads quickly. It is a spore type of fungus that travels to other buds via the wind, so it is impossible to prevent or stop if weather conditions permit it to grow. If things should go badly and the fungus starts to attack your plants, you must remove it immediately or it will spread to other areas of the plant or plants. Some growers will remove just the section of the bud that is infected, whereas other growers will remove the entire branch. Removal of the entire branch better ensures that the fungus is totally removed, and also enables the grower to sample the crop a few weeks ahead of time. The main point in removing the fungus is to be very careful. Since it is a spore type of fungus, the accidental jerking of an infected bud will release some of the spores and they could fall onto a lower bud, so by the next visit, you might have to pull that bud too. Also be careful in touching the fungus with your fingers because your fingers could pick up the spores, and then when you touch the next bud, the spores could cling to it and start eating away at that bud.